Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Card Shop. I'm the big dog. And as always, I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Funny Face, Mike Fruitman, owner of Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Colorado's best card shop. And we hope everybody's honoring those that have given their lives to let two jackasses like us do a YouTube Zoom video about the card industry. This weekend is meant to commemorate and memorialize those that gave their lives in defense of our country. And, you know, we want to give our appreciation and respect for them as well. So I hope everyone takes a moment to appreciate those that have made a lot of the crazy stuff we do during this pandemic possible. So as a topic today, you know, it's funny. We kind of figured this topic out before this weekend's Mike Trout phenomenon. And that is around the concept of what's a card worth? You know, what is a card worth? You know, as somebody who does a lot of card buying and selling, I will not kid you when I say I get 30 to 50 Facebook messages a day with a picture of a card saying, what's this worth? And I have a go-to move. As Mike is the bigger buyer and seller on a daily basis than I am, I'm going to let him have first stab at just talking through how he goes about pricing and how he decides on the buy and sell side, how he works with a customer, and then I'll weigh in a little bit later. But here's what I'll tell everybody. You know, from a history standpoint, you know, back in the day when cards were black and white, there was no way of pricing them. They were worth whatever someone was willing to pay you for. And those were almost always one-on-one transactions where you walked up in front of someone, you held the card up, and they said, I'll give you X for it. And you had to trust them. There's a lot of money getting made by guys who were buying cards because they would underprice the buy and they had a better gauge on what the sell was. So that's just how it was. Then came price guides. You know, PSA has it, Beckett has the bell cow in the industry. Those were great when the news and sports didn't happen on a daily cycle. So you get a price guide last month that says a Frank Thomas rookie's worth, you know, $100. Well, you can sell for $100 that whole month. So those were fine then. But we're in an age where the stats are every day, and the price of cards has become much more like the stock market. And the technology and information has gotten there if you're willing to spend the time to understand and figure out how to do it. And so we're going to get into that a little bit, but to start, I'm going to let Mike spend a little time talking about how he goes through that process. And he probably has a couple stories in there about people that'll probably be entertaining as well. So Mike, the floor is yours.
I feel like I should have my walker here, you know, the old man with the tennis balls at the bottom of his walker, because as a shop owner who started in December of '92, 328 months ago, I learned the other day. I'm a Beckett guy. I was raised on the Beckett, and Beckett was the way. And much like the screw down holders turning into magnetics, I fought it for a while, where I'm like, no, screw downs are better. Magnets are going to fall apart. They're going to bust open on you. So when eBay comps became all the rage, and I understand why they are. First off, it's an actual depiction. I mean, when Beckett says a John Elway rookie is between $20 and $50, that's helpful, but it doesn't really do it. And, you know, the assumption is when Beckett says it's worth 20 to 50, well, nobody pays any attention to the 20. That doesn't help anybody. They all go, Beckett's 50. And
a Beckett that says 20 to 50 is great unless you paid 35 for yours and you want to sell it. Then you need to get a little more precise in your decision making.
Absolutely. And you know, at first I used to have to explain what the two columns meant. I cannot remember the last time I asked, and he goes, what do the two columns represent? And I used to say, you know, best case scenario and worst case scenario. And, you know, if you're in Wisconsin, your Brett Favre is probably closer to this side. And if you're in Colorado, it's probably closer to this side. So it's been a long time since I've had to explain what the columns meant. I kind of miss it at times.
Hey, Mike, one thing on the columns, when I first got the Beckett magazine, it was a local card shop in Indiana at the time. And he goes, buyers on the left, sellers on the right. That was his analogy for what those columns meant.
There you go. Well, even in Colorado, we were still selling our $50 Elways for $39. So we didn't go all the way to the right, but we were definitely on our way. In the last 5, 7, 8 years, it's hard to recollect exactly. People have gone to the eBay comps, and initially, it was I'm firmly believe so that people could get better pricing on things. And when I say better pricing, I don't mean more accurate. I guess the term would be more fair. So, if that John Oe is really selling for $33 and 31 and 30, well, then it's a $31 card when you look at the last three. It was kind of like the old Olympic scoring where you would throw out the Russian judge because he's obviously grading you guys down and giving anybody from the U.S.
Exactly.
That wasn't a 5 routine.
Exactly.
That was a 2 routine. Up the whole way.
Yeah.
She fell all over the place.
Yeah.
So yeah, you would throw out the Russian score, and then you would throw out the U.S. score and the U.S. skater and whatever. So that is the way it is. And then it became, well, how do you use eBay and how do you use that information? So one of the things we'll do is I don't go to eBay directly anymore. There are two sites that I use aggressively. If I don't go to either one or both 10 times a day, I worry about myself. Like, geez, what type of day am I having? So the two that we use, mostly I will use CardSnoop, cardsnoop.com. It's not an app. I just save the page on my phone. It's put together by one of the geniuses in this hobby, Brian Rogers, who fortunately lives nearby. So I've got to meet him and know him. And it's really cool that somebody had a passion for the industry and created a site. I don't know what the original was for him, whether it was simply so he could get the information or how it was. But here's a guy who hasn't really monetized it. There's no fee to it. You have to subscribe. But he's not sending you emails all the day going, hey, try this new feature, and for $3.99, you can do more. So Brian really created the best mousetrap out there. And so CardSnoop, to me, it was the first one I went to. I've since included a second one, which is sportscards.com. And you can look up anything on there. Yes, obviously sports cards. You can look up Barbies. Not that I have. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Hogs, sure. Anything that's ever been sold on eBay, each of those two sites will get you information for. Typically on a newer card, brand new card, I'm using cardsnoop.com. Right. However, on older cards, because sportscards.com will go back to, I believe, 2016. Correct. So on an older card, I will, especially something like out of 10 where you just don't see it that often. On a lower number card, I will oftentimes, after checking CardSnoop, use the other one as well. And both work very well. You can go through them. You can set the first thing CardSnoop shows you is most recent, which is, to me, the most valuable resource. When you use sports cards, it shows you the most valuable. And typically, if I'm looking up a raw card, in theory, I've got to swipe through 50 graded cards to get where I need. You can reset it for most recent, same as, but I prefer the auto set from sportscards.com because, especially these days, month-old information, it's like a month-old New York Times and looking up the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, you don't use month-old newspapers. You're seeing more fluctuation now than perhaps ever in the industry. And that's without sports being played. I mean, just imagine when baseball comes back, if Yordan Alvarez has 3 home runs in his first game, the immediacy of change you're going to see is going to be incredible. I mean, right now I'll watch anything on TV. I'll watch any sports. There's a race today. I have never once in my life said, "Oh boy, there's a race on today. I can watch that."
More importantly, Phil and Tom and Peyton and Tiger are doing a little golf and a little trash talk today. I'm hoping that gets a lot of eyes because that could be entertaining.
Absolutely. It's yes. I mean, we might sell a Phil Mickelson card. Who knows?
Yeah.
This might be the golf equivalent of a 30 for 30. We might see that type of boom.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. The ESPN coverage. Oh my God, how does the most popular guy ever to play basketball? I won't get into the best argument. That's for somebody else and another 8-hour episode show.
Yeah.
But how does the most popular guy, arguably ever to play basketball, collecting wise, get more popular than he is?
Yeah.
And I mean, typically to become this popular this late in your career, you've got to go OJ and cut the head off somebody, or the Menendez brothers have to be found in the back of your card. So wow, I know I'm a little bit morbid today, but for Jordan cards to be selling for what they are now, it's the idea that a whole generation is going, wow, this guy was pretty good. We should buy his cards right now. How did that just come out of the blue? So yeah, especially on Jordan cards and other hot commodity cards. I'm on sportscards.com and CardSnoop on a very regular basis.
Yeah. So just for everybody, everybody knows my T-shirt game. I have about 100 and some shirts I bought off of a website called M00NSHOT. It's Moonshot, and they're thematic in a lot of ways, and a lot of them are old movies. Well, today's shirt is Mike Damone's concert tickets. So anybody who's seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High, there is no difference between the concept of a ticket scalper and a baseball card seller. They are the same person in different clothes. When you think about the whole point, think about why a concert ticket is worth more. Well, it's because it's a popular band, a popular artist. The venue's only so big, only so many people can get in, and more people want to get in than there are seats in the arena. So the number one thing that plays into all this is fame. You have to be famous or some ways unique to have value. The second piece is always scarcity. Mike can give you, and I'll let him share a couple horror stories about people who walked in with their 1990 collection of every baseball card made, and they think they have thousands of dollars in their pocket, and Mike has to tell them that they basically have kindling. And scarcity matters, and you have to monitor this. In a long run, scarcity is what will hold value, and the prices will do something. If it's not scarce, it's not going to do it. This weekend, Vegas Dave purportedly sold a Mike Trout to 5, graded as a 9.5 with a 10 auto for $900,000. Well, it wasn't a base common card without an auto that he sold. It was a refractor to 5 of a rookie card with an auto. So scarcity is always going to matter in this. But then the player has to be really good. If Mike Trout was a 200 hitter and basically barely went over the Mendoza line, his card's going to be sitting in somebody's door or keeping it open. So you have to be conscious of the fame and the performance of the player and the scarcity. So Mike, that one side is the singles, and I'm gonna go off on a little bit on the singles here in a little bit, but I do want you to talk about wax as well, and just the concept around the value of wax and how it has so outstripped the manufacturer's cost, and it's on everything. And I just want your feedback and thoughts around that.
Absolutely. And I need to start off by saying, maybe you shouldn't listen to me. Maybe I am the biggest idiot in this business. I've been open for 28 years and collected before that. I know nothing about this industry, or at least I proved to myself recently that I don't know anything about this industry. You should probably turn this off, go away, listen to anybody else talking about the sports card industry, although please don't. So about 2.5 months ago, about 2 months ago, when things started to get a little bit interesting in the world, and the directive came down that for some horrible misguided reason, my store was not a necessity store. I was shut down.
Apparently, no one understands addiction.
Right. Oh, it's just, essential. Come on. What's more essential than the sports card shop? I'm keeping more people sane than any other industry out there. Anyway, at least the husbands, not necessarily the wives. And when sports stopped, more specifically, when Mark Cuban, and it happened to be a Nuggets game, so I was watching it. I'm guessing you were as well. But because it's one of the few games we could watch on TV this year. But I digress. Denver people know what I'm talking about. When Mark Cuban's holding his phone and just jaw drop, eye pop, when that moment's going on, when sports stopped, I'm used to card stopping, and the difference being when sports stopped, before this most recent reason, it's millionaires fighting with billionaires, and my $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year revenue guy doesn't understand, he understands, but doesn't understand why millionaires can't get along with billionaires and why $7 million a year isn't enough for someone. So the contempt that usually happens when there's a work stoppage, it's based upon, there's a lot of choice words, perhaps a certain finger other than a thumb being used to go towards sports. And you're screwing me. You're making $7 million a year. Get out there and play. And obviously there's more to that. Those guys wouldn't be where they are right now if the guys before them didn't strike or hold out, whatever. But we're used to sports cards stopping, and not just like when baseball goes on strike, people just get angry at sports. My hockey guys, who care very little about baseball, It's a prevailing story. So they get frustrated that sports have stopped. It carries across the entire industry. And we've never seen, now we have a 3-sport stoppage and hopefully not a 4. Hopefully hockey gets their 24 teams back on the ice very soon. But we've never seen anything like this. So my thought is, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it, was, oh man, sports cards, we're about to have a whole world of trouble because we don't have sports. Our business is predicated upon Zion scoring 48 the night before, dunking on 5 different people, ESPN dropping their jaws and going, oh my God, and here's the replay, and here's this dunk on whoever unfortunate soul tried to step up to him. We're going to see that thing from 14 different angles. When you don't have that, you don't have a reason to collect cards, or at least so I thought. And what I've seen in the last 2-month span is the polar opposite of that. Sports cards are the new sports for people. When you go online, it's compelling. It's something watchable. We did we topped a few weeks ago. I think I mentioned it, where we had 100 viewers at one time. And fine that what does that say about my store? But for me, that was an impressive number. I was really happy with that. It was an accomplishment number, and I was out there giving people something fun to watch, something compelling, something new they haven't seen. On a singles night where I'm just rolling off singles one by one. When we're going live and we're doing our case breaks and our You Call It nights, we're seeing different numbers which are more significant on a very regular basis. And yeah, I mean, it's more money, but fine. But I'm also able to be there for those folks and give them something compelling to watch that's different. And that's translated into sports cards like I've never seen before. We've got our mid-level collectors are stepping up, and they're increasing their spend. We've got guys who we used to see sporadically who we're now seeing very regularly. And we've got guys we've never seen before who spent some of the last 2 months either in their basement or attic going through their card collection they haven't touched in a number of years because of the positivity stories that are out there. There are so many articles and so many pieces that I've seen online that have been nothing but incredibly positive about the industry. I always used to hate and be very careful when I would give an interview, either on air or to a reporter, because I was always careful not to give them that one line even after the interview was over, where they could completely flip the story. When McGuire and Sosa were big deals, the guy who gave us an article, who gave quotes to the Denver Post, left one line out there saying, yeah, but this won't last for long, or something's going to change this. And that one line became the gist of the article. We just saw a great piece by Sports Illustrated, nice little small publication, perhaps you've heard of, that went into the breaker game right now, and how incredible it is, and what they've been able to do, and how people are flocking to the industry instead of fleeing away from it because there's no sports. I mean, Sports Illustrated picked it up. How cool is that? So they didn't mention me. They didn't call me. I'll get over that eventually. But here it is. We got coverage from that mainstream level. And it's really incredible to see what's going on. And what we've seen in wax prices has been nothing but crazy. It's been literally insane. The first thing that happened right afterwards when we started this is everything on the high end flew off immediately, and everything on the low end flew off. So all of our $10 boxes were out the door. And I attribute that mostly to people giving them something to do. I was stockpiling food, and they were stockpiling cards to give themselves something to do for entertainment. And in the same regard, we saw the folks who were perhaps in a different level of collecting who were doing the same thing. They were trying to acquire. And initially I was like, geez, people are buying cards. This is great. I was going to be able to stand through, but more importantly, the other card shop owners I know, they're going to be able to make it through this as well. And a quick little aside, there's not a single card shop that I've heard of closing. There are some that are closed that can't be open right now. Curbside, they're doing mail-in. I know Mark and Donna Rubin, they own American Legends in New York. I think they're going in their shop a couple days a week, but they're only going there to pick up items that they sold on eBay so they can get them mailed off. They're in New York. Obviously, it's a different world than we are in Colorado. I talk about being open for 2 weeks now, and they're shuddering at the thought. I mean, they're chomping at the bit to go curbside, but with a lot of hesitancy and concern because of what they're seeing in terms of people buy them. So, but most importantly, we haven't seen a card shop go out of business. And there are card stores that literally haven't been open for 2 months. Now, I'll attribute that to sports card shop owners outside of drug runners who build tunnels from Mexico to the United States, who will put drugs inside of wheel walls and inside of spare tires, and not that I know this from history, but I see movies. But outside of folks who hustle that hard, and I say hustle in the complimentary sense, we are willing to put in the time, we're willing to put in the hours. There's no more resilient industry, I don't believe, than the sports card store level of this industry. There's about 18 things that are supposed to put us out of business. Sports card shows were supposed to kill us. eBay was going to kill us. Breakers were going to kill us. And to quote Pearl Jam, to quote Soundgarden, ain't found a way to kill me yet. So we're out there, we're very strong, and perhaps stronger than ever. Not because of wax volumes, what price they're going to, and obviously that's crazy. And here it is. I do it. I'm still calling it crazy, but the interest in sports cards right now may be as strong as I've ever seen it. As a guy who's been through Shaq mania, LeBron mania, Crosby mania, and 2006 NFL draft mania. Maybe we shouldn't bring that one up, but as somebody who's been through all those manias, the interest that we're seeing right now. Maybe it's boredom mania, is like nothing I've ever seen before. I'm surprised my phone. We're not open for another hour. I'm surprised my phone isn't ringing this early in the day.
Right.
To get specific to wax prices, what we saw is the high end, the low end went away. Breakers, because they don't have storefronts, many of them don't. They were able to simply plug and play. Then they could keep going, and they did. And they're going through product. And showcasing cards and becoming new content. There was the sell-through that they had, the amount that they were consuming, and it was copious. I've never said copious on this podcast before. I'm feeling good now. So it was really, you could measure it. And then other stores got into it. I've seen guys who've never done breaks before who are now doing it. And the scarcity that got created by Allen, Texas, which is my new favorite city. It's replaced Las Vegas. Allen, Texas is more important to me than Las Vegas. But when it shut down, every remaining box became a completely different commodity. I don't know that the term junk wax will ever get used again.
Yep.
I don't have any.
Yep.
I sold out of 1990, and I feel horrible about this. I need to apologize a lot. I sold out of 1991 Fleer basketball at my collector's asking price of $59. Would you sell it to me at that price? And in the past, it was a $15, $20 box. And I may have done a little Sprockets happy as a little girl moment when anybody walked out of the store with one.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I want to go in the back. I want to find more of that, hopefully. I know it's not back there. I've looked. But
the fact that you have regret about selling for $60 for that 1991 Fleer is all you need to know about what the wax era is doing. I mean, it really is. And just for background for people, Allen, Texas is home of the printing presses for a lot of the industry's cards. So I know Panini prints from there, Topps prints from there. So it's when it was on shutdown, there was no production, and now recently we've seen releases coming again. But everything got set back by the time frame of Allen, Texas being shut down. So we all kind of babysit monitor Allen, Texas about wax, especially Mike, because he's on the wax side of the business. But every breaker, everyone else is like, is Allen open? Is Allen open? Let's the Allen, Texas Relief Fund needs to get built so they can get going. So just the background for those that haven't heard our earlier podcast about that subject.
It is that Allen, Texas is my most important city. I don't check the weather there every day, but I might want to start. And by the way, I need to apologize. I got to write an article.
That's 3.
Yeah, I know. It's I talked about writing the article. I almost did it last night before I blacked out from exhaustion. But I don't like what's happening with wax right now. Real specific. On Friday we got in 2020 Bowman, and I'm selling boxes at $299, whereas the online guys, I think they're $329, $349. I think it's $349. And it's rookie driven. There's a guy from the Yankees who's going to be the next whatever, and there are other players as well.
He's the next Brian Taylor, but a hitter.
Oh God! When he turns 19, if he gets in a bar fight, we're all screwed. Don't hit with your hands. Just kick. Throw glasses of beer and don't hit anybody. Anyway, So that's a box, and the jumbos I've got at $5.99 versus the $6.24 that I've seen them at. I don't like that. I mean, and yes, I could do something about that. However, I can't. I'm in a difficult place. I would love to sell my jumbo boxes at the $2.99. I think they started off last year. I'd like to sell my hobby at the $1.49 that they started off at last year. The difficulty is, and shops have a great excuse, is my restock price is more in line with the $5.99 price, and more in line with the $2.99 price than it is compared to factory cost. And it's very difficult. I would not expect my grocery store to sell me a filet mignon at X a pound when it costs them X
Yeah.
plus 20%
Yeah.
to buy it, or even X minus 5% to do it. After you take out credit card fees, there's no sense in doing it.
Yeah.
Card shops have relearned in the last few months, last few years, that sitting on wax works out pretty well. And so you're seeing a number of different factories. You've got more people coming into the market buying cards than perhaps that I could recollect in recent history. You've got the absence of wax. One of the things that's specific to Bowman also is I believe 75% of what went to distributors was held up, not by Topps as some manipulative move, not by the distributors to manipulate things, but simply in terms of the processing. They can only make so many cards at a time. I'm lucky that I'm direct and I buy from distributors, so I got a really healthy allocation. I got my full allocation to Topps, and some of the stuff I ordered from my distributors. But by the time that other 75% hits, I don't know a lot of people who may have a lot of series or the initial offering of Bowman left, and whereas in the past, in this scenario with fewer collectors, if when that 75% hit, it might have really suffocated the market. I
Right.
don't think we're going to see a blip issue. I mean, I looked at the release calendar for next month is pretty strong with baseball
Yep.
products, but I don't think there's anything prospect driven from Topps that's going to take people away from that. And we could talk about other products as well. This one's just really fresh on the brain.
So when you think about this, Mike, I think what the interesting phenomenon is breakers have continued to get bigger. And I think what's happening is as box prices go up, the role of a breaker becomes even more important. I think what you see is breakers want to buy boxes from you, and then they go sell individual break slots, usually in the terms of serialization or number of teams. So if you buy a box of cards, you're getting the number of teams, you get one team and you break. Those guys now serve an important point because now that gets you access to product. So rather than spending $6.99 on a box of Bowman, you can spend, I'll call it $40, and you'll have a 1 in 30 chance of hitting whoever the hell you want in that box. Your odds are exactly the same. It's just on a smaller scale, and it's just a double gamble, but it's accessible for people. So
sure,
Mike, you're in a position where, hey, guys like me can come in and buy a box if we want to, but breakers are now serving an important role in letting people have access to product that they wouldn't otherwise have access to. You can have the same thing by going in and buying a pack, but what you're betting on is the whole box, and you're getting the spread of the boxes. And it's an interesting dynamic. And it's as much as I hate the fact that a lot of cards that when I grew up, it was the end cap, and I think 86 Fleer basketball cards when I was a kid, they were like 35 cents. They were 35, 40 cents. I remember it was 3 for $1 at like it was called Payless was the store I went with my mom. We'd go grocery shopping on Fridays. I'd go in there and I remember buying like $5. I had $5 in my pocket and I bought like 15 packs of Fleer 86, 87 basketball. Now, if I'd have not opened those packs, they're probably $300, $400 a pack if they get graded to be a 9 or quality. But back then it was 35 cents. And I could access it. Relative to today, that 35 cents today is probably $3, but that pack, the packs that we're getting, they're in the tens of dollars. A little kid can't buy that stuff. And that's the hardest thing about all this is, the expensive stuff, kids weren't going to buy National Treasures. Kids aren't buying Diamond Icons and Definitive, but kids are buying Bowman and they're buying Topps. And those prices have even come up. It's been sucked up with everything else. And it's a hard go for kids. So on the wax side, prices are just brutal. And I hate it because the kids don't have access like we'd like. And so breakers serve a role there. they serve a role to let kids have access if their parents can get them involved and let them enjoy it. But then they have to give them a credit card and all this other crap. So card shop owners, you have a tough role. I mean, you're kind of the meat in the sandwich, and it's how do you get the access to the people that don't have the price point that degenerates like me have.
It's definitely a challenge. Fortunately, there are products that are designed for that. Topps Big League, Topps. I was about to say Topps Total, but Topps Opening Day. Even Score, which is a 4 autograph per box product that used to sell for like $110 on the jumbo side. That's closer to $200 right now. So we have always brought in, not always, in the last 4 or 5 years, we focused on blasters to give our collectors a more affordable jumping in point. So yes, we have blaster boxes, but perfect example. We just got in Mosaic basketball. My restock on blasters is over $60 a piece. Blowouts at $74. So I'm like, how do I can't price them at $20. I can't price them at $30, knowing full well I've got to spend about $60 to get back into the game.
Yep.
So we've got them $69. We're more affordable than Blowout. So I can kind of hang my hat on that. And we're offering immediacy and drawings and other things.
Yep.
But I don't feel good about it. I've got guys who have collected Bowman with me for years, not because there's rookies. It's just another top set. They collect Stadium Club, they collect Bowman, and on down the line, if it's a Topps release, standard release, not a 1-hitter, 2-hitter, they're buying boxes of it. And I mean, I don't want to look these guys in the face and say, your $150 box that should really be $100 is $299. It's $289. I think it's a short-term healthy situation in theory for card shops where we're going to be able to make it through this. But from a long-term perspective, and as a long-term thinker, I don't want somebody who's enjoying the hobby and looking forward to each new release to start dreading each new release. I mean, I don't want my favorite meal to be something I hate and that I don't look forward to anymore. So I've got to wrestle with that balance. And do I do better for him? Well, if I do better for him, do I do better for all? And then I'm selling boxes of Bowman for $150, knowing full well it's going to cost me another $100 on top of that to rebuy them.
Right.
It's a sticky pickle. And I grew up in Miami, so I pay more attention to orange freezes. I know that's kind of a weird thing to bring up, but I used to hate it. Not that I was buying orange juice. I know my mom was, but when there'd be an orange freeze and the stuff that's on the shelf suddenly goes up in price. Well, the King Soopers or Publix or whatever your grocery store is, well, they didn't pay more for that stuff on their shelf. They're going to have to pay more for the next one. And I didn't understand why they'd raise the price on the current one. They didn't pay more for it. It was on their shelf before. Why charge more? As a business owner, I've come to understand it a little bit differently. But it bugged me then, and it still bugs me now. I don't love what's happening in the hobby. Do I like it? Yeah, I mean, kind of fun to do better. But from a long-term situation, I don't see this as really being a great thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, this is the gas station model. You're paying what they have to buy the next gallon of gas for. So you can complain about, oh my God, gas prices are going through the roof, but that's because that's what they're going out. They have to make their 1 penny or whatever it is per gallon or a quarter of a penny. They have to charge you what it takes them to buy the next gallon. They have to charge to sell to the next guy. If prices are stable, it's pretty normal. As prices come down, the smart ones kind of slow down the drop, but it gets there. There's no difference. I mean, if you're not able to, you have to make some money and you have to be prudent. If you sell everything at the current value, you don't have the money to buy the next one because it's doubling up on your working capital. And at some point you're pinched. And so if you're not around to buy cards from, then they have nobody to buy cards from. So at some point you're serving the masters by being open. And, you're doing the economics that everyone else does. I mean, everyone I hear about is, what's my restock cost? I'm selling up my restock plus or minus. And sometimes I know you guys will split the difference. It's like I know, you just mentioned it, my brain's frying.
Mitch?
No, the Prism, the new Prism line that's out.
Mosaic.
Yeah, Mosaic. I was saying Majestic in my head and I couldn't get it on my head, so I was stuck there. Yeah, so Mosaic, the original price of that was god awful low compared to this. It's not considered high-end product. Christ, Donruss and Donruss Optic aren't high-end products, but you go look them up, they're $300, $400, $500 a box right now, and
yes.
and they're selling for that because that's what somebody else is selling to these guys for. So they're, Mike's making some money, but he's not making a fortune on this, and he's just getting his re-up. And his next sale isn't confirmed. And so the only way to, if you want to take risk off the table, you've got to go sell for what you can buy for, so that you're only at stake for the cost of that buy, not the next box. And so, the risk to you today, inventory is gold. In the old days, cash was gold. But in a time of scarcity, inventory is gold. So, I think wax wise, I've sold all of my, like I had two nice cases of 18, 19 Prism basketball. They're gone. They're sold. I'm good with where the number is. I've sold a lot of my Michael Jordan singles. They're only the PWCC at like, because I might miss the next curve, but there's so much money in it right now. I think it's a good time. So when it comes to the hobby though, all these people have come into the hobby, I think, since the pandemic started. And people are like, yeah, but that's only for now when sports start up. Sure, maybe. But what I'll tell you is every person that was in the hobby when the pandemic started will be here when it's over. And some percentage of the people that got into the hobby during this pandemic will stay in because they like it. And that's not a bad thing. I'm okay with prices that were here in mid-February. And so if it's a little better when this is all over, what's the harm? You'll have a great return. If you'd have stuck $5 in the stock market in January 1st, you wouldn't like it very much. If you stuck $5 into a case of Prism basketball, you like it a lot right now. There's times for this stuff. The prices might ease because they're ungodly, but that's just the nature of the beast when it comes to the economics of this. So, just to get back to singles and the subject of this really is, how do we price cards? Mike lets he goes out and he goes to Card Snoop. He goes to sportscards.com, which is BCS Sports Cards. To give you a little perspective on what I do. So I'm primarily a buyer, and then I let market forces determine my sale. I don't sell singles that much. I sell them on ComC, and I go to auction a lot. When I do auctions, I rarely do reserves, and I very rarely set a reasonable buy it now price. And I just put it way above what I see as market and say, if you want it for that, it's yours. And at the end of the day, remember, it's just like tickets to Pearl Jam. What are you willing to pay? And so what I tell people, I get the better part. I get at least 50 Facebook messages a day asking for prices. And we thought it was important. We come on here and tell people, how do you do this for yourself? Because at some point you might trust me, but man, trusting yourself is always more important. And we want to equip you with some tools to how to get there. So when you really think about trying to price your cards, so let's say you bust a Zion Silver Prism. How do you know what that's worth? Well, there's some things you got to know first. You got to be smart enough. You got to know the card year. Okay, basketball and hockey can be a little funky because they're multiple year. So they're generally ascribed to the season. So a Panini Prism basketball card is a 2019-2020 Panini Prism, but the card print that you look at on the back will say 2019 Prism. That's a 1920 season card. You need to know that because when you're searching cards, it's very relevant. Second, you got to know the player. Who the hell is it? And some cards, they have multiple players on it. So you got to know how to look for that. You have to, search the player, search the individual. You got to know the card number. That's important. You got to know the characteristics of the card. Is it a mirror? So is it serialized? Is it 5 out of 10? Is it 99 out of 99? What is it? You got to know the prism type. That is tough. There are so many freaking prisms out there, so many different refractors out there. I can tell you, Cardboard Connection has a great aggregator of these. Beckett tends to put these out. I think even on Panini's site, they have some of the details about what the prisms are. But Cardboard Connection and Beckett do a good job of laying out the prism types. That's very important because if you sell a Zion Red for a Zion Ruby Wave price, you ain't going to like it very much. And the guy that bought it's going to love it. So know your stuff. Do your homework. Search the listings. Like even if you don't want to go to Card Snoop, you don't want to go to Sports Cards, go to eBay, type in the card, know the year, type in the player, type in if you just do that with the card series. So Panini Prism 2019 Zion, type that in. Sort by most recent sales. Do not look at listings. People list cards. I just told you, I'll do a buy it now. if I had a silver Prism Zion, my buyout now would probably be $2,000. Because if someone's willing to pay me $2,000, I'll take it. But that's not the same as selling a card. That's what I would like to have. And of course, I'd also like to have a Lamborghini for Christmas. That's not happening either. So you have to be willing to go out and you got to do the homework. Look at what's gotten sold. Do the math on what's gotten sold. Check most recent. Don't look at Zion from December when he wasn't playing yet. Look at Zion now. Understand what it is you're trying to get into. Mike and I do this. It's like second nature for us. I want to help all you do the same thing. Get onto Card Snoop. Get onto these places. Type in that card and then take the card you've got and look at the cards and make sure it's the same damn one. It's important. Learn the taxonomies about that. So that'll get you into the resources. eBay, PWCC, the big auction houses, that's what these cards are priced for. That is the stock market of our industry. Okay, that's the only way to tell current comps that are out there, but you got to know what's sold. If you ever go to the stock market and you go out and look, just like Mike said, low and high on Beckett, if you go to the stock market and you click on a stock and you look at the price, it'll say bid and ask. It's usually trading somewhere in the middle. The same thing is true on any time you look at eBay, unless you look at what's been sold. That's the price. Be careful, know your timing. So those are the things that are important. Just go out and search it and and test drive it. You'll figure out the prices are there and you can work through that, but ultimately Mike has talked about this and we've already hit on it is, how's pricing determined? The scarcity of the card is important. That matters a lot. A common does not sell for what a one-of-one auto does. You got to know the talent of the player. Ultimately, Mark Jackson's cards, the Menendez brothers notwithstanding, doesn't sell for what a Kobe Bryant does. Why? Not as good. That's just reality. Over time, talent will yield the card. Scarcity can play into it, obviously, but talent plays. Know the age of the player. What year is it? Is it their rookie card? Is it their 10th year card? That's very relevant. Rookie cards tend to have the most value, absent some other scarcity that creates some other demand. Remember, a guy has a 20-year career. He was only a rookie once. Every other year is just one of those 19 years since he was a rookie. The rookie is the first card. That is just the fundamentals. You can argue about it. You can not agree with it. There are certain cards for people that are more significant than their rookie card. Technically, Michael Jordan's 86 Fleer is not his rookie card, but it was the first, Star had some ones earlier, but that's the bellwether of the rookie card. So rookie cards are valuable. It's important if you're collecting autos and you want to price an auto, you got to know if the guy who signed with is alive still or dead. Sadly enough, if you go back to the point of scarcity, a guy that dies, invariably his autos go up in price. They go up in price because there aren't any more of them. Scarcity, people extrapolate. Like Shaquille O'Neal signs an ungodly number of cards. Magic Johnson signs an ungodly number of cards. If they were to die tomorrow, God forbid, the value of all those autos is going to be higher than it is today because there aren't going to be any more. The price that you're paying has a built-in expectation of all these new autos are going to happen. They'll stop. And so that's the economics of the world kind of fix that. And then most importantly, and as you heard this on our episode number 6, you got to understand the condition of the card. If your card is mint, the value is higher than if it's not mint. Obviously, go card grading. Grading's grading. If it's graded, then it's less of a discussion. You can look back on episode 6. Trust your eyes. A grade is only as good as the grader, and your eyes should be your number one thing. So make sure you train your eyes. But those are all the fundamental characteristics. Do your thing, but do your homework. If Ruby Wave Zion Prisms are selling for $400, don't expect to get $800 for it, and don't be dumb enough to sell it for $150. Do your homework. There are plenty of outlets to see this stuff. Every now and then you'll find there's not a card. There's not a card of somebody. One-of-ones are a great example. And as I look in the world, there's 2 types of one-of-ones. There's one-of-one because it's truly the only one of those made for that year. And then there's one-of-one because there are 7 different mirror versions of that card. And the one-of-one is the one that's there because the same card could be a one-of-1, 1 of 10, 1 of 25, and 1 of 99. So you're really, that one-of-one isn't quite as valuable as a true one-of-one that's the only card like that made. Prism's a perfect example. All those prisms are the same cards, just with different circulations. So, understand that. Understand what this works out. if you're trying to find a card and you can't figure it out, look at the same player in another year if it's not a rookie. Look at a similar player on your talent scale. Do your homework. That's the hard stuff. So do know your recent prices. Know them. Know whether it's a rookie year or not. If it's not a rookie year, then know that. Know the player's recent performance. If none of those cards have sold in the last 6 months and the guy's tearing the cover off the ball, guess what? That price back then better not be the price you're selling for, because it's probably worth more now. So do your homework. Things don't to do. We mentioned this up front. Don't rely on price guides. I'm not going to go buy Amazon. I'd love to buy Amazon stock based upon the price last month. But by God, if I'm selling it, I'm not going to sell it at the price last month. Know your current prices. Don't use price guides. They lag. They can give you a general indication. So if you're sorting, you can use guides to quickly figure out which cards to do more work on. But generally, they're not going to be the most solid basis, because you can only sell for what it can go for. Don't expect the cash you get to equal the price that you're seeing on the markets. So if you sell that same Zion Ruby Wave for $400, you ain't getting $400. I guess got news for you. PayPal is going to get their piece. eBay is going to get their piece. The buyer is going to pay shipping and potentially insurance. They're going to pay extra. So understand that if it's $400 and you're a private transaction, you go do your homework. Don't expect $400. Expect some fraction of $400, especially if you're with a card shop owner, because guess what? That card shop owner has to go sell that card, and they got to make some money. They're not speculators. They're in it. A card shop owner is the same as a casino that runs a sports book. They want there to be 100 bets on either side of the number, and they want to make their money on the juice. They want the 10% of the losers, and that's what they put in their pocket, because that's a guarantee for them. So all a card shop owner wants is they want a willing buyer, a willing seller, and they make a little money in the middle, and they're putting the two together. So understand, if they're paying you full value that you think is for everything, A, you're not paying eBay fees and PayPal fees, so you're saving that. And B, they got to make some money. And they're not going to make thousands. If they're gouging you, you'll know that by doing your homework and looking at prices. You can be smart enough not to get gouged. And if a card shop owner is good, like Mike is, he's going to tell you what he can pay and what he can sell it for, and he's going to be honest. Others, man, go do your homework. Get on Card Snoop. Get on these things. It's amazing how many times I've been to a card shop and had someone tell me a card's worth something that sits behind a counter, and then I go on Card Snoop and they ask what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, I'm looking up what the last 5 of those sold were, and all of a sudden the double talk starts. And it's awkward and it's uncomfortable. So it'll help you find honest brokers pretty quickly. So, a guy like Mike will go, hey, I'll go to Card Snoop right now and we'll look it up. We'll look it up together, and then he'll give you the honest dozen. So understand what you're trying to do and do that work. And if you can't find a price, you got to look at comps. You just got to look at other guys, stuff like that, and that's just how it works. And so this, the last thing from my little spiel here is all of this is caveated by the point of what I call the time element. Okay. The time element is no different than if you're trying to sell your house. Let's say your house appraises on the market for $525,000, but you want $550,000. Guess what? If you list your house for $550,000, it's going to take longer to sell your house than if you listed your house for $525,000. If you're willing to wait, you might get that $550,000. The perfect person might walk up, see your house, and say, boom, I'm buying that house. It's my dream house. Here's your $550,000. But if you're in a hurry, putting it at $550,000 probably ain't going to happen unless you're really, really lucky. So you got to understand your time element. If you're a desperate seller, guess what? You ain't going to get as much money as the guy who's willing to wait, because the guy who's willing to wait might find the right person, market factors and notwithstanding. Obviously, if Zion blows his knee out tomorrow, the guy that's holding all the Zions ain't going to like it very much. And the guy that was in a hurry will make more money than him. But you have to understand that stuff. And those are important characteristics, but it's the time element is the last one. We all have seen it. This is a tough time for a lot of people. And the industry, like, there are people who need the money, and by God, they're not getting full value for their cards. If I was a buyer of singles, it's a party out there for a lot of people, because singles are getting sold at fire sale prices some places, and then getting turned on eBay for a lot of money. So, just a little back spiel about background for all of you that are in the same boat I am, trying to figure this stuff out. and email me and text me about what cards are worth. That's how I go about it.
By the way, you made two analogies. We've had the T-shirt concert ticket broker analogy and the Vegas analogy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm more
and
supportive.
Houses.
Yes, I'm more supportive of the Vegas analogy. As somebody who works in the entertainment industry who has tremendous disdain for ticket scalpers, I like the Vegas one a little bit more, or a lot more. Yeah.
Well, let's be honest. I often correlate ticket scalpers to card distributors. So that's my view. It's amazing, and I hate to tell you how the stories sound the same. And, it's unfortunate, but that's life. And look, at the end of the day, I'm a capitalist. And if you can make money doing something, at the end of the kind of all this stuff, a card is worth what you're willing to pay for it and what someone is willing to sell it to you for. No different than a stock market, no different than a house, no different than a ticket to Pearl Jam. They're all the same. And so you have to understand that. What you have to do is, if you're the seller, not be dumb enough to give a card away. Understand what they're worth. And then if the person that's in front of you isn't willing to pay that, find someone who is, because someone else was. And so if the facts haven't changed, you have a chance there. Mike does that every day. I do that all the time, mainly on the sell side, but that's what you do.
One of the things that's been really interesting in the last few months is the speculation game has changed so much. I'm still getting people coming in and they're talking about players as though they're playing. So I've got guys like Jason Tatum's playing great. Like somebody said that the other night, and I'm like, was there a game? Did they get back? Are they doing some 3-on-3 action? Did I miss the whole thing? So people are still looking at sports and athletes and games as though they're still being played. Man, I'm glad Kobe White had a great run up in the second half of the season, because he put himself in elite status, almost elite status, for this year's basketball crop. I mean, Zion is still getting talked about the same way. And, Ja Morant, I'm still seeing the replays of him almost dunking over a dunk he didn't even make over Kevin Love.
I'm posting video of that.
That's right. It's crazy. And the speculation is rife, especially with having Bowman just arrive.
Okay, sorry, folks. There was a brief bathroom break there. When you have way too many of these in the morning getting ready for the show, you kind of need to purge yourself at times, and an hour show will do that to us. Anyway, so Mike, when we bolted quickly, you were talking about, Ja Morant missing a dunk over Kevin Love and what it's doing to his cards and just where the whole industry is, and I'll let you pick up from there.
We're seeing everything like that, and what we're also seeing is the ESPN factor. The Jordan factor we all know, but one of the things that's starting to happen is the A-Rod, Sammy Sosa, and Mark McGwire factor, as those guys are set up for future episodes. Man, I wish I had some Bruce Lee cards. That would be awesome. I know they're doing a piece on him. God bless. I wish I had some Bruce Lee cards. Anyway.
Well, I have three Lance Armstrong auto cards, and I'm pretty sure the next 2 weeks aren't going to make his cards worth more. Now,
I don't think
depending on how this documentary, if it goes that everyone was doing it, including him, then you get the McGwire Sosa effect. That's my belief, but I'm solo in that. It's more they're with me because he was impactful to me watching him win those Tour de France's, and I was blindly unaware of anything else around it except that. And so much like Barry Bonds, the performance when everyone is basically considered equal by me, I appreciate the people who have those displays.
I wish that ESPN would do like a thing on Kent Colvey, maybe John Olerud. How about Joaquin Andujar? We could do a 30 for 30 on him.
Well, I'd take the long view. I want them to do a 30 for 30 on the junk wax era.
Okay.
Because guess what? Rising water raises all ships. And I think if they did that, you'd have they could get into the real guts at a hardcore level, because ESPN would do it right around what that did to the industry and how the industry basically killed itself with its efforts. And it would help that. And then they could fast forward to today. That would hurt no one. That would hurt no one.
It wouldn't help me because I'm out of all my junk wax. It's all gone.
But the singles are out there.
Yes.
And my whole point is that, the value of wax is the singles. And going through that, and when they start talking about all those players that were in that era. King Griffey Jr., Frank Thomas. There are more than a few Hall of Famers in that window. And I look at Derek Jeter, his rookie card. You know, that was kind of at the tail end of all this stuff. Look at it now. If it's graded well, it's game over. So, you know, I think a lot of that still has a possibility if we just get through it.
We're seeing that, and then we're also seeing certain sets catching fire like never before. If you have not watched what base chrome LeBrons and base prism LeBrons, Metal Universe with the crazy awesome drawing designs in the background, Tim Duncan's in there. If you could sell them for $5, you left that store feeling like you had done something, you had accomplished something. And now there's like $50 cards raw, and above that if they're graded. So it's almost like, okay, so which set's going to get love next? We're seeing golf cards getting love. I just looked at DealerNet the other day, and I think buys on 2001 Upper Deck went from 30 to 35, but that was a box we used to retail for 20. So we're seeing love given to all sorts of different products. Oh my God, soccer? Oh wow, if you got soccer cards on your shelf, you are doing great. Very few stores invested in the soccer. Very few stores still had it. I think most stores are like, geez, you'll buy it, let me get rid of it. And older soccer, 2, 3, 4-year-old soccer, the 2014 stuff, it's like a $500, $600, $700 box. We're seeing products that we used to be burdened with that it used to be, well, I'm just going to buy this because I buy everything. And if I buy this, I can get more of the stuff I really want. This will help with my spend. And you're seeing soccer boxes really becoming major part of this industry once again. I don't know of any product in the last 2 months, and again, I'm product driven, not necessarily sports single card driven. I don't know of a single product that's lost value, if not gained 20, 30, 40, 50%. I think back to Prism. Prism is basically my barometer for the industry.
Yes, me too. Me too.
So the day, first off, the day Prism came out, I was selling boxes of Prism for $399, which I thought was an inflated price, but it had Zion, who was eventually going to play, Ja, who was playing, and a bunch of other guys who could emerge. And I remember right when I shut down, I had guys who were buying boxes $800. I'm like, okay, great. Well, that's going to go away. In fact, the day, the Wednesday when things got weird, there was a buyer on DealerNet who ran the first buy for cases at $10,000. And that day just happened to be that day, the Nuggets Mavericks stoppage and the Pelicans game that didn't even get played. So that day I remember it hitting 10,000 and just being, wow, this is a crazy moment. Then that product dropped the buys to $8,600. I think that's as low as they went, maybe $8,400. And now those buys have now turned into $13,000 buys. So we're seeing, and not that every product goes as Prism goes, but if you got to focus on one release, that's an easy one you can tie your horse to and kind of get a feel for which way the waves are going.
That's right. Yeah, and by the way, at $99.99 for a case, you'd regret having sold it right today.
Correct. All those boxes that I felt very comfortable with selling at $800, thinking, okay, this will allow my store to stay in a strong position. Now that they're $1,300 or $1,400 a box.
It's crazy. I mean, look, Nate, we just had Nate Burns on our last episode, and he got a case of first off the line Prism, and those are, it's like $1,500, $1,600 a box. And you think about it, it's like, what the hell? And those are, you talk about high risk, high reward products. First off the line Prism basketball is, and there's one pack in there, folks. There are 8 to 10 cards, and you either going to do okay or you ain't getting smoked. So, but they move. I think he sold half the case already. And you think about as he keeps joking, and we talk all the time, Mike has a wax room in back, and I'm not giving away, trade secrets. And he has some stuff in there that he makes money just by having that room exist. And so he takes it, puts it back there, and just that process makes him more money than ever deciding to monetize it. And he could not have taken the money that he sold it for and put it in the stock market and have it be worth more than that box he stuck in back that he left. So, I just decided that I had enough. And I do believe that there's a little bit of inflation. I don't know how much it is, but there's a little bit of inflation right now. I think prices are going to come down a little bit, but I'm not sure it's going to come down a whole hell of a lot. And that's all true until the next class comes out and they're ungodly, and then we'll see. I do think that the next year's NBA draft class might be a little soft, but again, with this pandemic, who knows? There might not be a next draft class, and the next one is double the players because they all apply to the NBA rather than go to college. So all of a sudden, that class got a lot better rather than just being the guys who didn't make March Madness this year because it got canceled. So I think we'll see how this plays out, but ultimately the talent of the players will be a driving factor. Scarcity will be a driving factor, and a healthy industry that doesn't make too damn many cards will be a factor. And when you look at mirror and serialized cards and stuff, they're doing a pretty good job of managing that, I think, compared to what they did in the early 90s.
A quick little asterisk to what Sean said. We do have a lock on that door. We have motion detectors, asterisk, door trips. I've got this crazy bar on my back door that you basically have to have a tow truck and a winch to take off. We also
my goal is not to provide you an ability to rob Mike. Mike's shop in Castle Rock is not available to be robbed.
Yeah, Castle Rock. There you go. It's been interesting. One of the craziest finds I have is we had somebody who wanted some older wax, and they're I call him a shark fin soup collector. So real quick, he'll buy a set of cards. He'll take out the one card he wants, and the rest just kind of get thrown back in the ocean. Yeah. So he was buying 1989 Topps traded sets for the Griffey, and I literally moved a case of 89 Topps traded. And this kind of sound, it's a fun story, but it's also kind of doesn't shed a great light on me. But I found a case of 1819 Prism Hobby basketball behind the 89. I felt really good about it. I forgot about it. Then it was behind the case of the 189 Topps traded set. So yeah, that one did okay for me. Not every product's done well. What's been real surprising this year is the one sport that hasn't really done much, and maybe it's a U.S. Canada thing, but hockey, we have not seen the same type of movement that we've seen in the other three sports. Even in 15-16 stuff with Matthews, McDavid, in 16-17 stuff with Matthews, in recent years, we just haven't really seen a lot of movement. And I'm not sure whether it's, the Jack Hughes capo factor where those guys didn't do what they were supposed to do. We're still waiting for Elias to kind of break out. Boser from a year before that to really emerge. But in the same regard, I haven't heard of shops complaining because we've been able to withstand the hit of hockey cards not selling with the other sports. I don't remember. I mean, obviously, we wish hockey there was more interest in it. Perhaps the products were appreciating, but unfortunately, we just haven't seen the same type of interest that we've seen from other sports.
But you haven't seen a back off. It's just behaving more like it did historically rather than this craziness in other sports. So, again, you were open and doing quite fine when everything was acting rationally. And so all that's happening is hockey's continuing to act rationally. The other sports have lost their mind. So it's kind of like there could be more gravy.
Well, you're very well possible. And perhaps hockey is maintained instead of what it might otherwise have been.
Right. And that's, to me, as somebody who's, is probably a long seller on a lot of stuff now, and I'm probably buying a lot less and I'm selling a lot more over the next year or two. The fact that hockey is kind of behaving rationally is a little bit of a red flag, because it means that there's pockets of different perspectives than there is in other sports. And it can go one of two ways. And my guess is somewhere in the middle is the right answer. And, as we said early, a lot of people have gotten into the hobby over this pandemic. I think some of them are going to get out, and that will lower the scarcity because the demand will be lower, but the supply is the same. But at the same time, some of them are going to stay. And everyone that stays is an addition to the scarcity equation that makes values good. It just might drop a little bit from now. I think my fear is there could be there could be a massive buying opportunity the minute people start going back to hitting the sports books and everything else. Because I think, as with any bull market in the stock market, it all goes crazier up until the first turn. And then when the first turn happens, two things happen. Either it goes this way or it dives like a crazy level. And I think it could turn into a buyer's market if there's a turn, because some people who were sitting on their cards waiting for the top might all of a sudden get scared and start selling. So you might see a drive back down. It might go a little lower back than you'd otherwise expect. But that's, in the stock market, people are used to that. I just don't think the industry is used to that.
Well, you bring up one thing, and to go off on it a little bit, you brought up sports betting, and Colorado and a number of other states just got sports betting. We got it May 1st, just in time for no sports. So hey everybody, the weather's great. You can't swim in the ocean right now, but the weather's great. You're gonna love it. So that's not a concern, but an awareness I have. People can't gamble right now. I haven't gone to Vegas. I haven't gone to my favorite. I haven't gone to my favorite location in Blackhawk or Central City or one of the other gambling towns here.
We are not sponsored by Ameristar Casino, so we will not mention where our favorite spot is.
For a free buffet. We would never do that. or the steakhouse. Or just the grill, give me a burrito. Anyway, so, but yeah, we haven't had that. So it'll be really interesting. One of the things I want to see is, are my collectors going to be diverting their collecting money will it become gambling money? And should there be a really good gambling day, will that turn into sports card money? And that's maybe we can't do a whole show on that, but that's definitely going to be something. With the apps on your phone right now, you'll be able to bet on just about anything. And I mean, what were they saying about the last 2 UFC fights? That those have generated more.
The first UFC fight since the pandemic began was one of the most bet upon UFC events of all time, and it wasn't some epic card. I mean, it was a pretty good card, but it wasn't the McGregor-Khabib fight. It wasn't UFC 100 where the card was just stacked top to bottom. But the amount of money was going in. Like, look, Korean baseball is getting money. Russian table tennis is getting money. Duck your head. The Bundesliga, the gambling is probably going through the roof. So people are looking for outlets. As the outlets come back, some of that money will come out of card collecting, because this is just another form of gambling for some people. But there's going to be a lot of people that will find that they like it, and they're going to stick around. So, it's okay. Not everyone that tries escargot ends up eating it twice, but some people do.
I'm good.
So, yep. Well, hopefully, folks, this discussion we've had on pricing, you need to go into this with your eyes wide open. You need to do your own homework. I'm glad to answer the Facebook messages and stuff I get. And for anyone that's offended when I send them back links to Card Snoop and sportscards.com, I apologize, but my goal is to get, I'm trying to teach the dolphin to fish. I don't want to feed the dolphin, because then he's stuck with me for life. And I think we're all better off if we can rely on ourselves. So hopefully the tidbits we gave you around how to think about this are great. I'd prefer people send me Facebook messages around how rather than how much, because I'm glad to teach you how. Hopefully this video and podcast will give you a little bit of perspective on that. So Mike,
you're about to go from 50 to 80 a day. You know that, right?
That's fine. That's fine. And as long as they say how and not how much, I'm good. So any final parting words from you, my friend?
No, I mean, it's Sunday. We're looking forward to helping our collectors. I've been looking at my screen. We've got about 8 messages from people who want to get in. They're looking for prices. And I'm glad to see so many people having fun with the hobby right now. I was genuine, as somebody who is concerned. It's incredible to see the amount of collecting that's out there, and it's awesome. We're seeing so many families coming in, fathers, dads, fathers, sons, moms and daughters are coming in as well. So that's awesome. I'm glad to see that is. Support your local card shop. Obviously, if you're buying online, nothing wrong with that. But make it out to your LCS. Figure out what they're doing, where they're doing online breaks, if they're doing curbside, if they're lucky enough to let you in as well. Please support your LCS. The quickest way to lose your LCS is to buy online or to be at Target or some other location. Check in with them. They're waiting for you. They want to see you. So please contact your LCS. Figure out what they got going on.
Great. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Again, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Colorado's best card shop. He has a regular singles night. Tonight, there might be some extra special stuff he's doing around a couple cases of product that you haven't seen in a while that could be fun. So until next time, thank you all for listening. Take care.